Hello, everyone. Welcome to day 24 of the 30 days growth marketing course. Just like we discussed in the previous lesson, we discussed the B2B agency example. And in this lesson today, we're going to discuss a B2C e-commerce example. And Swati, this is something that you've been working on. So feel
Yeah.
free to add your inputs. But let me just ask you, if you were not to look at this table, and there's a lot of information here, what would be the one thing that you would do for each of these stages of the funnel for an e-commerce business? If we had to pick one thing for awareness, acquisition, activation, retention, and revenue and referral.
So, like in terms of, okay. So up for awareness, I would say social media is the best channel. I would be biased also because I'm a social media marketer, but I think social media is the best channel for awareness because especially for an e-commerce brand, right? Yeah. So going on different social media channels, and also the other day we talked about influencer marketing. So yeah, that too. For acquisition, I would say, again, acquiring a customer. So getting the emails, so a pop-up on your website, which then puts them in the funnel for email marketing, I would say.
And I think then you can also measure like things like their conversion rate of the pop-up, how many people are signing up on the pop-up, etc.
Yeah. Activation, honestly, I'm not sure for an e-commerce brand how we would activate them without
Activation is the most tricky part of the
it's always I mean, I find it a bit difficult always.
because it was defined for SaaS companies, right? So if you're a SaaS startup, if you're a B2B product, then you have a very clear activation stage. You have even if you're, let's say, a B2C mobile app, you're signing up on Twitter for the first time. We took this example earlier. You're supposed to follow a few people, make a tweet. That event counts as activation. In case of e-commerce, there is something called the welcome email, which is pretty much the welcome email flow that we run on, we run it on Klaviyo for our clients, for example, which is pretty much sort of an equivalent of activation, because in this welcome flow, you are there for a week and you're learning about the brand. You are getting a lot of information about the brand, and you've probably not placed an order yet. So like you said, you perfectly said that social media for B2C e-commerce would be, D2C e-commerce would be the best one. Acquisition, you would do the email pop-up, which is great. And after that pop-up, you would get into the welcome flow of the brand, right? So where you will get the discount code, you'll get the story behind the brand. And this is how you give a taste of the brand to the customers. And that's activation. While activation is tricky, it's very important to understand activation, because a lot of times we just feel, okay, we get someone to sign up and then we make a sale. But no, there is a process that happens between. And if you know the process, you can make hacks for that process. If you don't know the process, you don't know what to measure, then how will you make hacks for the process, right?
Totally.
So that's activation. There's another concept which is only for B2C e-commerce, is sometimes you will lose people from your funnel and you can reactivate them.
Okay.
So something that we can also call the re-engagement, and that improves your average order value. So it's very interesting in case of e-commerce. You might lose the customer and then you can reactivate them. So there are different email flows that serve that purpose. But yeah, that's how you would do activation. And again, for e-commerce, revenue would come before retention in many cases, in most cases, ideally. Yeah, continue. I think, just some information on
Thank
action.
you. So yeah, after activation, when the customers, I think, convinced enough about your brand, they'll make a sale, they'll make a purchase, and that would be revenue for the brand. And yeah, so after revenue, I think when they make a repeating order and they're coming back to your website again, so you've retained that particular customer.
Yeah, so like order rate is a very good metric. If brands use Shopify, they are able to see this on their dashboard. What is their repeat customer rate, or repeat order rate is another one. Repeat customer rate could be just like traffic from people who have already bought. Repeat order rate could be orders from people who've already ordered before. Those are great metrics for retention. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, yeah, if they like your product enough, they'll refer it to their friends or colleagues or over their social media as well. So that would be referral.
Right. Another thing just to add there, UGC is catching fire these days. It's sort of the hottest thing in e-commerce. So UGC submissions is a great way to measure referrals, because if someone is submitting UGC content, that can be used for referral campaigns. It's basically someone referring you, but in a very indirect way. So just like I was mentioning for an agency, someone creating a testimonial video for an agency, it's very equivalent to UGC submissions for a B2C e-commerce brand.
Yeah, I agree. Yes.
Right. Cool. So I think you summarized it pretty well. Those are the key different stages for B2C e-commerce example. And that's all for today. In the next lesson, we're going to look at the next example. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one.